Hey guys, welcome to your Lunar Astrological Horoscope, your solar eclipse, black moon in Aquarius. Whew, what a big one. What a big one, guys. We've been preparing for this one for for the last week or so. Definitely the first week after the lunar eclipse ended, it was all about finishing up and wrapping up the changes that the lunar eclipse has brought. And now, as we move towards the solar eclipse, we prepare ourselves for the next 6 months. Now, as you may have already, done a little bit of research by now, this solar eclipse is going to be in Aquarius. So we'll be talking about that in just a moment as to what that means and discussing some of the placements that we also got going on here. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So this eclipse is going to be happening on the 27th degree in Aquarius. And as I've mentioned already in some of my previous videos, this is going to be a massive solar eclipse, right? This isn't just a regular new moon. This isn't just a regular solar eclipse, but this is a black moon solar eclipse. And again, if you don't know what black moon means, it means that we're only having either one full moon or one new moon in a given month without the other. So this month doesn't have any full moons. It's only going to have a new moon. That's it. That's radical. That's so radical that it only happens once every 20 years. So think about that for a second. It happens once every 2 decades. And generally it will probably happen in February because it only has 28 days. So it's so much easier to align it, considering that, a lunar cycle is roughly 28 and some change in duration, days, obviously. So when that tips over, that's when we get this strange astrological occurrence in which we, not only astrological but even astronomical, because you can pull up a calendar anywhere and find out when your full moons and new moons are. So we just get to analyze the astrological perspective of this phenomenon, if you want to call it that. But it's big for it also to be an eclipse as well. That's kind of big deal. It's kind of a big deal. So let's see what we got going on, right? As we've already said, the solar eclipse is going to be taking in Aquarius. The last new moon was in Capricorn. So we're going from the new moon of structure to the new moon of leaving behind structure, bringing change, bringing a new forward way of thinking, innovating, our road towards the future. This is a point in which we're definitely going to be shifting from the old, and I don't mean in standard ways, but even on people's personal lives. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. So the first thing to talk about, obviously, is that Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus right now is in Aries. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because we do have an aspect from the new moon, from the solar eclipse to Aquarius, and it's going to be a sextile, which means that this is going to be a trigger. I don't find this to be so much as something that you need to trigger as much as this is the trigger, right? So the fuse has basically been lit, and on this day the fuse will go off. and whatever is to happen is going to go into motion. And of course, if we finish off the tricolor that it's actually making, we can kind of get a bigger picture of what it is that's going on here. So obviously this is what we want, and this solar eclipse is really going to highlight a lot of our inner selves, right? You know, when we talk about Scorpio, we do talk about a lot of negativity about Scorpio, and sometimes I apologize about how much shit we talk about Scorpio, but sometimes I also want to talk about the fact that Scorpio really does love its intensity, its intimacy, its deepest, darkest secrets. And that doesn't always need to be a negative thing. There's also a massive rainstorm, so if you hear some in a moment, that's probably lightning outside. You know, this solar eclipse is really going to help reveal a lot of what's inside of us, both as a collective as well as an individual. And we may not necessarily understand what it is and how do we make use of it. That's why when this trigger goes off, this trigger is going to affect us on a very deep level, and we may not understand how deep this is going to affect us. That's why this is an inconjunct between Uranus and Jupiter. This is going to be radical changes on a personal level that's going to affect us fundamentally. And keep in mind that both Aries and Scorpio are both ruled by Mars. And where's Mars right now? Mars is in Sagittarius. Mars is conjunct Vesta on an adventure. You know, Mars is catching up to Vesta finally after she's just been trotting about. And Mars is finally like, you know, he's been running and running, catching up to Vesta. And he's like, hold on, hold up. You left me behind back there. You went to Sag and you left me in Scorpio. And so Mars, you know, has been trying to catch up to Vesta, as Vesta has been going on this like grand adventure, grand Piscean, Aryan adventure in Sagittarius. Just learning about the world, learning about spirituality, learning about their faith, learning about what they should be focusing about, learning about what they believe in and what they should have either more faith in or remove faith in, learning more about themselves through their experiences. And as Vesta gains more experiences, we understand things a lot better. Mars is catching up to this energy, and we're going to have kind of a moment here in which Vesta kind of, you know, sits on a rock and teaches to the young Mars that which she has gone through and that which she has understood. Because remember that Vesta is a crone. She is an elderly woman. She is an experienced woman. She has walked the walk. And so now it's time to talk. And Vesta's going to really inform Mars of the experiences that she has gone through, so that Mars may be able to take this knowledge, this Sagittarian experience, and put it forward to creating new things once it reaches Capricorn much later. However, this exchange of knowledge is important, as we do have the tricolor with Athena, technically both North Node and Aries, and then, or not Aries, North Node and Ceres, and then back to these two. So again, this moment here is a very Martian moment of change. It's a time in which our actions are not going to reflect our ignorance, but rather our experience. And it is through this experience that we're really going to be able to both go in the direction that we need to in life to find that stability, find direction in our life, and also nurture the future we're supposed to go into. Right? So definitely very big Martian experience here. Of course, that's not the only thing we have going on. There's so much more. This solar eclipse is also going to be conjunct, as I said earlier this week, both Juno and Mercury. And as you can see, this is what, a 2 degrees conjunction between these 4 placements. You know, this solar eclipse is really going to highlight what you should be committed to, what groups of people you should be committed to, I guess you can call it groups of projects you should be committed to, what innovations you should be committed to, what humanitarian purposes you should be committed to. This Aquarian energy at this time period is something that we have mastered, that we're very good at. And it's time to really take this energy and do the things with it, essentially. It's time to take this mastery and begin applying it. Really begin applying it to the changes that will be coming, right? An aspect that we spoke about earlier. But this aspect, this solar eclipse, is also really going to fundamentally change the way that we think about things. Mercury is our thought process, the way we take information, the way we go about things, the way we understand our immediate environment, the way that we interact with our environment. This solar eclipse is going to be a huge trigger for Mercury to truly awaken. It's that boom. It's a explosion of energy in a sign that deals with spontaneity. And I mean, to a certain point, some people even call Mercury accidents. But in this case, it also can rule eureka moments. This solar eclipse is really going to illuminate Mercury to the thought patterns it needs to be adopting so that their open mind can see reality from a different perspective. It's no coincidence that Mercury is going to be sextiling Uranus here, almost down to minutes, right? Again, this is a spontaneous change. This is quick combustion. Not necessarily. Well, yeah, because it isn't a fire sign, even though it rules air. But it's a shift. You may not experience it immediately, but the innate changes that are going to occur are going to be quick. So that's a portion of what's going on right now. I'm trying to just like look at everything, right? And again, this is happening in the house of Aquarius, which its ruler is Uranus. And if we look at the house ruler or sign ruler, we see that yes, it's aspecting the solar eclipse. It's also aspecting Jupiter, as we said before, but it's also going to be aspecting Pluto. And again, we've been seeing this for quite some time now. This isn't new. This has been here for some time, but it's important to note that it's still here while we're going through this massive change. So when that house lights the fuck up with that solar eclipse, the house ruler is going to be aware of it, and its aspect with Pluto is going to initiate a lot of changes. A lot of changes in the old, right? Remember that what we've always said about Pluto, it destroys and kills so that we can give birth or rebirth to something new. So Uranus here is really going to kill off something old, something traditional, something with structure, something with Capricornian energy. It's going to eliminate it so that we can give birth to something new. And it's great that we have Saturn in Capricorn already, because it means that whatever Pluto destroys, Saturn is going to set straight. This isn't just going to be a destruction and, oh God, end of the world, Armageddon, all of that, fear-mongering bullshit. No. It will need to be destroyed because it's become corrupted. And Saturn is going to fix it. Saturn is going to set it straight. Saturn is going to discipline those who have been abusing their power and setting things on the path they should be on. And I say that because of the aspect that we've been seeing for quite some time now, which is these one right here. Saturn has been trining Athena. Saturn has been setting the direction for people, has been putting people back on the right path. Saturn has been making sure that people are going in the direction they need to be going. And even though Athena may not necessarily be aware of what that direction may be, Saturn is setting it straight. Between Ceres and Saturn, they're figuring out the path forward, the path that leads to the North Node, and making sure that people are going in the direction they need to be. So again, this isn't necessarily something new. A lot of these aspects have already been occurring. However, the solar eclipse is going to be the trigger that sets it in motion. Right? Remember that I've been saying for the last week or so, the universe is preparing itself. The universe isn't aligning everything. It's all falling into place. Every time we have some sort of eclipse energy, we get a shit ton of tricolors. This isn't a coincidence. The universe is literally setting itself up. And now that it's ready to go, it's about ready to hit that last shot that's just going to make all of the cones just all fall down in place. You want to talk about preparedness? Universe has been prepared. I mean, we even got a yod going up in here, and this isn't a very loose yod either. This is only merely a 1 degree difference yod. We have Venus, Saturn, and Ceres. Again, Ceres and Saturn working together, but we have these three aspects working together. Venus and Saturn are teaching people what they should desire. Is teaching people that certain things are not good for them. Even if you like them, even if you have high ideals or you like to fantasize about it, it's not a good idea to necessarily do so. It's teaching people what it is that you should truly be appreciating. And I mean, the energy has been there for quite some time now, because that Venus has been squaring Mars. There has been a lot of back and forth between the sexes right now. There has been a lot of controversy going on in the world. This isn't a coincidence. This is all happening according to plan, because Saturn has been setting things in motion with Uranus and Pluto. This is a three planetary setup, so that when we have this solar eclipse, everything gets set into motion. So again, Venus and Saturn here are going to be funneling their energy over to Ceres, who will be teaching us what it is that we should be nurturing, what kind of appeals should we be adopting, what kind of things that we like should we be changing. We definitely don't want to expect a Prince Charming only to be disappointed when we get a farmer as a partner. We don't want to desire something that isn't healthy for us, that is possibly an addiction. Because, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So just as well as even bad things can be bad things, right? When we're dealing with Pisces, we're also dealing with, abuses. Substance abuse specifically. So once again, there's a lot of energy here to correct people, to set them on the right path, to open their awareness to their surroundings, to their lifestyles, to their environment, to the people around them, to those representing them, to be more open-minded and realize that the system that we've had up till now, though it started out with noble intents, has become corrupted. That we've been off path for quite a long time now. That it's time to begin correcting the mistakes that have been made. That's what a transit like this is really all about. And again, the setup for this is grand, to say the least. Is it going to be like a huge end of the world type of thing? No, of course not. I don't expect anything like that at all. That would be fear-mongering indeed. But things will change. Things will be healed. Things are coming to an end, specifically. Jupiter has been amassing its power in Scorpio and has been trining Chiron this entire time, and it's going to continue doing so because it's going to retrograde in a little bit next month. And like I've said, right now, all of the energy is literally on point. It's on point. There is so much happening. So very much happening. Let me see here. What aspect does this go into here? The things that you should be nurturing, right? The actions you should be taking to nurture your future, your goal, your tomorrow, your North Node. Sometimes we don't know what that is. Sometimes sacrifices need to be made. This Neptune aspect here is almost like a fog, so that you do not become distracted by everything around you, and instead being able to focus on what's important. What's important to you? What do you want to nurture in this life? And if you're not doing it, what the hell are you doing? Right? So an aspect like this is really putting a blind over your eyes so that you don't notice the distractions around you, so that you can really focus in and home in on what actions need to be taken to really address this. Is it this one? Yeah. So that you can find your direction. Or, as the meme would say, so that you can find a way. Right? There's definitely a lot of changes coming. Nothing too extreme. Nothing negative. I think that's the biggest thing that I definitely want to state with all of this. I don't see negative changes. They may appear negative on the surface level. They may not, obviously. But the changes that are coming are necessary so that we can definitely open our eyes. So that we can become aware of what's happening. So that we can gain the downloads that we need to really be able to initiate the changes that we should be making in our life. Again, the lunar eclipse that we had finished off the cycle that began back in August of last year, when that solar eclipse kicked off the 6-month cycle. This solar eclipse here is kicking off the next 6 months. So we're going, we just finished one change and we're about to strap into the next. This is kind of like school. When you finish off one semester of classes, you get a little spring break or winter break or summer break, although those are generally a little bit longer. And then jump back into classes next semester. That's kind of what's going on. Our little lull of 2 weeks is coming to an end. And this black moon solar eclipse is definitely going to really push things forward quite some bit. I mean, we can talk about the solar eclipse that we had last year, which was really about awakening everybody inside. Having that solar eclipse in Leo, not only did we have a solar eclipse in Leo last year, but we had 2 new moons in Leo last year. This time we only have one, lunar eclipse, new moon, full moon thingy in Aquarius. And, we only have this new moon solar eclipse. So definitely the amount of energy that has changed from them and now is radical. And a lot of people will probably say, well, this one's probably not going to be as big as it was last year, because last year we had a total eclipse. They'll use the astronomy version of it. And I can understand that. It ended a 5-year cycle. But this is going to be what kicks off a increase in human free will. Aquarius does sextile both Aries and Sagittarius. They're all air and fire. They don't like to be tied down. You try to tie down an Aries, they're going to rebel against you. You try to tie down a Sagittarius, they're going to run away from you. You try to tie down an Aquarius, they're going to logic their way out of it. And so that's what this is kind of really about. It's coming into that awareness, that download, that knowledge, that information that you need so that you don't get tied down, so that you are able to break the shackles that have been holding you back. Like I said, both on a collective level and on a personal level. So, very awesome solar eclipse. If you're still looking for changing your relationship status, I still don't recommend it, because Venus is still squaring Mars. For the love of God, don't do anything romantically new right now. It is nothing but a shitstorm. But I mean, if you want to stick it in crazy, go for it, man. I'm just telling you. Even for our little Leo friends out there, I'd hold back on any type of partners right now. It's just not the time, not with this type of transit. As far as businesses goes, I mean, this is a really good time to get into organizations, associations, groups. Definitely a good time to start projects. Transits like these, I can definitely see a massive technological boom coming through. And just don't be the type of person who's like, well, I've been paying into... Obviously, this is an example. I don't think anyone here is old enough to think of this type of example. but it's the one example that I kind of always hear a lot of older people say is, well, you know, I've been paying into Social Security my whole life. I'm entitled to have that. I'm guaranteed to have that, right? Entitled you should be because you worked for it, yes. Guaranteed? Not in the type of society that we live in right now. Nothing is guaranteed to anyone. You know, that's a very Capricornian way of thinking. You gotta move forward. You gotta, like, you know, get that creative spark. What can you do to change things? What can you do to find stability, right? Because we do have Athena in Taurus. What can we figure out that will give us the direction to be able to find stability? Thankfully, Athena is going to be aspecting this solar eclipse, so in a somewhat positive way, yeah. So what can you do to make it happen? I don't know. But yeah, definitely. Let's see how many we got. One tricolor, two tricolor, that's not a tricolor, 3 tricolor, 4 tricolor. That's 4, right? Yeah. I mean, and then obviously we have our very close 1-degree yacht as well. It's a lot of aspects. And obviously, even with this chart, I'm not adding in nodal aspects, so I could probably pull out more. I just, you know, decided to pull out the most important ones. So if there's any advice moving forward that's like I wouldn't necessarily say generic advice, but a overall beneficial advice is be open to change. Even if you may not like the change that's coming, even if you're dreading the change that's coming, don't close yourself off to the massive possibility that there's going to be a radical change in your life. And be open to certain areas in your life that you know have been failing you, and it's time to correct them. This is one of those transits that almost makes me want to say the future is now ours and we can take reign of it, you know, because it kind of really is. As cheesy as that may sound, but it definitely really is. So really big changes coming, and how is the future really going to play out? I don't think anyone can really say. I mean, we've been doing a lot of tarot readings and stuff, and spiritual connections, and at the end of the day, every time we try to pull up any information, it just says you can't expect it, you won't expect it, you won't see it coming. So I think we should always be well prepared for any kind of event and be accepting of change as opposed to fighting it, because this isn't Capricorn season. This isn't a Capricornian solar eclipse. It'll probably be next year, but not right now. This is definitely very much a Aquarian solar eclipse. So big changes, fast forward thinking, and doing away with the old and adopting the new. Welcome to the next 6 months. I'll definitely catch you guys somewhere in either July or August for the lunar eclipse that will be ending this cycle. Yeah, hopefully guys, you guys enjoy this. If you jumped to this video and you didn't watch the rest of this week, shame on you. There's a lot of really good information leading up to this eclipse, so I would recommend definitely to go check those out for more information how to prepare for this. And yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about Venus and Pisces, there's always that. Uh, I've covered a little bit about it here. That video probably goes a tiny bit more in depth about it. And as always, you guys, stay safe, stay positive, and we'll catch you guys on the next cast. Peace.